From a letter from Spinoza to Schuller in 1674. I pass to that definition of freedom which he says is mine, but I do not know where he got it from. I say that a thing is free if it exists and acts from the necessity of its own nature alone, and compelled if it is determined by something else to exist and produce effects in a certain and determinate way. For example, even though God exists necessarily, still he exists freely, because he exists from the necessity of his own nature alone. So God also understands himself in absolutely all things, freely, because it follows from the necessity of his nature alone that he understands all things. You see, then, that I place freedom not in a free decree, but in a free necessity. But let us descend to created things, which are all determined by external causes to exist and to produce an effect in a certain and determinate way. To clearly understand this, let us conceive something very simple, say, a stone which receives a certain quantity of motion from an external cause, which sets it in motion. Afterward, the stone will necessarily continue to move, even though the thrust of the external cause ceases, because it has this quantity of motion. Therefore, this permanence of the stone in motion is compelled, not because it is necessary, but because it must be defined by the thrust of the external cause. What is to be understood here concerning the stone should be understood concerning any singular thing whatever, no matter how composite it is, and capable of doing a great many things. That each thing is necessarily determined by some external cause to exist, and produce effects in a certain and determinate way. Next, conceive now, if you will, that while the stone continues to move, it thinks, and knows that as far as it can, it strives to continue to move. Of course, since the stone is conscious only of its striving, and not at all indifferent, it will believe itself to be free, and to persevere in motion, for no other cause than because it wills to. And this is that famous human freedom which everyone brags of having, and which consists only in this, that men are conscious of their appetite, and ignorant of the causes by which they are determined. So the infant believes that he freely wants the milk, the angry boy that he wants vengeance, and the timid flight. Again, the drunk believes it is from a free decision of the mind that he says those things which afterward, when sober, he wishes he had not said. Similarly, the madman, the chatterbox, and a great many people of this kind believe that they act from a free decision of the mind, and not that they are carried away by impulse. Because this prejudice is innate in all men, they are not easily freed from it. For though experience teaches abundantly that there is nothing less in man's power than to restrain his appetites, and that often, when men are torn by contrary affects, they see the better and follow the worse, they still believe themselves to be free, because they want certain things only slightly, so that their appetite for these things can easily be restricted by the memory of another thing which they recall more frequently. With this, if I am not mistaken, I have explained sufficiently what my opinion is concerning free and compelled necessity, and concerning that fictitious human freedom. From this it is easy to reply to your friend's objections. For when Descartes says that he is free who is compelled by no external cause, if he understands by a man who is compelled one who acts unwillingly, then I grant that in certain things we are not at all compelled, and in this respect we have free will. But if by compelled he understands one who acts necessarily, though not unwillingly, then, as I have explained above, I deny that we are free in anything.